This is the Kitchen Sink WP Podcast, episode 398.
I program my home computer.
We have a server crash. 404 error. Page not found. Links aren't working. System is crashing. System is crashing. System is crashing.
Your old HTML website. Barely alive. We have the technology. We have WordPress. A new website. Better than it was before. Better. Stronger.
Faster.
Why, hello everybody, this is Adam Silver, the host of the Kitchen Sink WP Podcast. Thanks for being here. Let's get started. All right, upcoming events, a couple of things to talk about. Excited about this week's episode. First and foremost, we have Woosesh coming up October 12th through 15th. It's a 4-day virtual conference for WooCommerce store builders that will help grow your business. I was looking at the speaker standouts. To me, Kathy Zant, Lindsay Halsey, Daniel Espinoza, Pat Ramsey, all really good people, great speakers. I'm going to try to participate a little bit, pay attention to some of this because I have a WooCommerce store as well as some clients. You know, I use it for a couple of things myself. We do use it, the agency. So check that out. It's free. Woosesh, what's the actual domain? If I'm not mistaken, it is woosesh.com, WOOSESH.com. So, all right. Also, just a reminder, this entire month is the Worldwide WordPress 5K. You can go to www.p5k.run. It's still going on. So it's through the end of the month. It's a 5K. It helps raise money. Check it out. So it's Worldwide WordPress 5K 2021. It's a mouthful, but check that out. So if you're looking for a way to help, give back, and get some exercise in, there you go. Okay, moving on. Segment 1 in the news. A couple things here. Another acquisition. ProjectHuddle has joined forces with Brainstorm Force. Brainstorm are the makers of Astra, UABB, some other things. I use them actually for one of our items. We use at UABB, which I thought was interesting. So another congratulations to all parties involved. Also, CreativeLive has been acquired by Fiverr. Not WordPress related, but Fiverr is a big company now, and they acquired CreativeLive, which is quite interesting. I thought you might want to check that out. CreativeLive is a place I used to check out when I was doing more photography work to learn techniques, tools, whatnot. Also, they would have live webinars, and then you could pay for the replay. Kind of very similar concept that exists already, but interesting to see how that happened. So check that out if you're interested in knowing about that. 2 more things here in the news. Also, my friend Topher and Kate DeRoja, they're expanding their presence in the HeroPress arena. They run HeroPress, the website. They also, so now it's called HeroPress Network. It's becoming a hub of content from about 8 different projects. The HeroPress Network, HeroPress itself, Hallway Chats, which they acquired earlier this year, WP Podcasts, which is a hub of all the WP WordPress related podcasts. I'm listed there for both shows. Find It WP. They're also going to have a Slack group, and then I guess 2 more projects are in production, which have not been announced just yet officially. So congratulations to them. Kind of neat, kind of very cool. They're really trying to grow that brand in that entire project. So pretty cool stuff. What else? Oh, one last thing. Yeah. So I mentioned this on Twitter about a week and a half ago, and I've mentioned it in the past. I went 401 days since I purchased a domain, and I finally did it. I bought a domain, and I'm going to announce it. It's ready for you here. It's actually connected to running, surprisingly enough, the 5K thing. It's over at runadam.run. It's a personal thing where I'm going to be tracking my progress as I train for my first ultra marathon, 50K, coming up in March. As I've mentioned here, I was going to do this actually back in August, but then I broke my foot. So kind of the timing was really bad. So anyway, if you want to check out and watch what I'm doing, my training, my diet, the ups and downs, the good, the bad, the ugly, it's over at runadam.run. Also at the same thing over on Instagram as well. And there's a YouTube channel. You can check it out. So there you go. All right, that's it in the news. Yeah, that's it. Moving on to segment 2, the meat potatoes of this week's episode. But first, a message from our sponsor. Running a web design agency, an e-commerce website, or software as a service-based business isn't always fun nor easy. Moving from idea to product to sale takes a lot of energy and people and feedback. Add to the mix the potential of multiple decision makers with everyone chiming in, making progress can become a nightmare. And who wants to deal with all that email? I don't, that's for sure. So how does my team handle it? Simple. We use Marker.io. For one of our recent projects, we installed the widget and collected feedback on both the staging and live websites. Marker.io allows us to customize the settings, which provides the use of different forms for internal teams as well as from customers. So cool. Gone are the days where a client has to try to explain in text what they want changed. Since Marker.io grabs a screenshot and allows you to mark it right up, right there on the screen. And when you're ready to review the feedback, well, no need to log into a new site or service to see the feedback, since Marker.io integrates into your favorite project manager or issue tracker seamlessly. Speed up website testing and collect client feedback easily without driving yourself or your team crazy. Simply head over to Marker.io for more info. That's MARKER.io. And thanks for sponsoring this week's episode of the Kitchen Sink WP Podcast. And we're back. Thanks again, like I said there, to Marker.io for sponsoring the last few weeks. It's been really nice to have them on board. Great service, great tool, great people. Check them out. All right, moving on. Segment 2, meat potatoes. All about content. This week I want to talk about content. As the saying goes, content is king. Oh wait, is it cash is king? Well, it doesn't matter. They're both right in their own respects. Now, I've always wanted to be a prolific content producer, where I look at some of my friends in the WordPress space and I'm amazed how much they put out. And I mentioned this to a friend of mine a few months back, and they said, "What about you?" And I was like, "What?" And they took a breath. They said, "You produce a weekly podcast for how long now? Many years, never missing?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's right." It's weird how we kind of don't see what's often right in front of our eyes. So yes, I guess I do put out consistent content here on this podcast, but I digress because I'm also quite aware of what I'm doing these days and how I'm implementing a new strategy to do more. I want to share more content. I've talked about it. I just want to do more for multiple reasons. And truth be told, this main reason right now is to drive traffic to convert to sales and income for the agency specifically. So we'll get to that and how I'm doing that in a minute here. But a quick refresher, starting with some basics. There are 3 primary types of content. You have the written blog post, video, tutorials and webinars, and audio. Let's say a podcast, go figure. Simple enough, right? You pick one, you create it, the content that goes with it, and you're done. Business and conversions just come right in. They roll right in, right? Well, not really. Now, obviously, there's more to it. The first thing is to consider what makes good content. And I believe, as I did some research here and just thinking about it for the past, couple weeks and months and years, it follows into 3 items. The first thing to consider what makes good content is it needs to be authoritative. As a business, you have to aim to be a thought leader in the field that you're working in. Knowing your business, your sector, your audience really is the key to creating authoritative content that educates and engages. Now, if your audience is convinced you know what you're doing, they're more likely to trust you. Again, it goes back to that sentence, people do work with the know, like, and trust. Okay. Number 2, it needs to be relevant to the audience at hand. Don't try chasing keywords that aren't relevant to your business. I mean, if I started talking about running shoes on this podcast, that wouldn't make sense. It doesn't make sense at all. My running shoes have nothing to do with WordPress, right? So make it relevant. Don't just chase the keywords that aren't relevant to the business at hand. And it needs to be consistent. It's a commitment. 2 times a week or more. You need to do it. If you make a commitment to putting out a podcast every week, do it. I take pride that this show is weekly, every Monday. I have not yet missed a beat. And I hear about that a lot. People are always seem to be happy about that. Or I don't know if they're impressed, but they think, wow, that's a big commitment. And it is. You need to be consistent. Whatever you say you're going to do, stick to it. Okay. So how does content creation boost your business? Well, it's an easy answer. It engages with your audience and solves a problem for them. Answer questions, etc. Now, the format of that content will depend on the audience itself. Blogs, in my opinion, are not dead. Many people also like to read. That being said, many people also like to listen to podcasts, like you. And of course, let's not leave out video because many people are visual learners. And depending on the topic, video makes sense for demos, tutorials. And we all know how much we watch videos. We kind of doom scroll through Instagram or Twitter or TikTok, etc., right? So oddly enough, this morning I got the update about my viewing or usage for the social medias on my phone was 11% less this last week. I'm like, really? So, it goes up and down. It varies. I try not to think too much about it, but I want to pay attention to how much content I'm producing versus consuming. I'd rather produce more, but, I'm human and I'm easily distracted and often bored. So, okay. So now you've created it. How do you get the word out? Well, it's a combination of 2 things here. A content calendar and you need to share it. Okay. I'm not good at either one of these on the bigger picture at the moment. I am switching that out. I've already made the changes here. So the content calendar will help you first and foremost with scheduling and the creation of the content itself. If you have a team who's going to create the content, who writes it, who edits it, who does the graphic, etc. Now, getting the word out is a totally different thing into itself. And it's where social media comes into play. How often do you do it and whatnot? So most recently, in this past week, my friend Oscar Gonzalez, he's over at Not a Grouch on Twitter, he just posted on Facebook last week, that your competition is likely doing more than you, i.e., he had a little screenshot. I took a screenshot, but I'll just read you what he wrote. Let's say, for example, Instagram, 1 to 5 times a day. TikTok, 1 to 3 times a day. Facebook, 2 to 20 times a day. LinkedIn, 2 to 5 times a day. Pinterest, 2 to 10 times a day. YouTube, 2 to 7 times a week. So my favorite takeaway from this was from him when he says, and I quote, "Don't come to me and say social media isn't bringing in sales. From when he checks in your IG profile, you have nothing new for the past 10 days. Right. I mean, you have to put it out there. You need to share your content. And the way to share it is using the right social media area, the arena, the platform appropriately. I still believe that you want to use the social media to drive people back to your website. As we know, Facebook just had a massive outage just last week, so it's important to do that as well. Drive people back to your website. Lastly, let's not forget about repurposing. Now, if you have a video where you are interviewing people, pull the audio, make that a podcast feed. If you have a podcast and the topics are relevant to, let's say, an agency blog, transcribe that content, clean it up a bit, and use it there. Because I'm doing that exact thing. I am starting to do that as I recently added a blog after 5 years? Yeah, 5 years of Concierge WP. There is now a blog over there. Some of it is original content. Some of it's going to be repurposed from this podcast, just transcribed, because my audiences don't always overlap. I find people find me through the agency. People find me through the podcast. So either way, I'm going to be using some of the content from here over there as well. So as we're now going into Q4 for the year, it's a great time to consider your content strategy for the holidays as well as for Q1. And that's the takeaway right now. What is you're planning to do with your content, creating it, scheduling it, and sharing it? Don't let it wait any longer. All right. If you have any feedback on that, by all means, let me know. Love to hear your feedback. All right. Moving on, segment 3, tip and tool of the week. This week's tip is a service called Stencil. It's a competitor to Canva. I use it to help me with creating my content. That's why I'm mentioning it this week. Full disclosure, I have a paid account, but I got a lifetime deal through AppSumo like 4 years ago, when it was called something else. They rebranded. I forgot what it was even called. But there's a free level and a pay level. And I was looking for a discount code to share here. I couldn't find one online, but I found out they actually have Stencil for web, Chrome, Firefox, Safari, and WordPress, which I'm going to go try out. Apparently, there's a plugin to WordPress to help you create social media shares and whatnot right from within the website. Pretty cool. So anyway, check it out. It's over at getstencil.com. I have no other connection to them except to just share them with you right now, right here. So that is it. Let me wrap it up here. If you have any questions, by all means, send it in via email, adam@kitchensinkwp.com, or use a SpeakPipe function on the website. If you want to support the show, become a Patreon. There's a link on the website, as there is one for the sponsor of the show as well. You can do that like marker.io did this week. Fill that out. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. If you're looking for coaching and accountability, I'm over at adamsilver.com. If you want to follow my run training, run adam.run. And thanks for listening. See you next week. Now go out and do some awesome things with WordPress. All right? Bye-bye.